Invited my estranged stepbrother to my wedding hoping for peace. Instead, he hijacked the mic and humiliated me in front of everyone. My name's Owen, I'm 28, and I've been engaged to my fiancée Lila, who's 27. We've been working on planning our dream wedding in Hawaii for almost a year now. It's supposed to be one of the best days of our lives, something we've both looked forward to for a long time. But there's been this one issue that's been bothering me non-stop: whether or not to invite my stepbrother, Lucas. He's 30 now, and to be honest, he and I have never seen eye to eye. Lucas has always been the type who got everything handed to him. When my dad married his mom, I was 12 and Lucas was 14. Even back then, you could tell he was her golden boy. She and my dad doted on him constantly, while I was expected to just keep quiet and deal with whatever came my way. As time passed, Lucas grew into this arrogant, entitled guy who walks around like the world owes him a favor. Meanwhile, Lila, being the kind-hearted person she is, thinks we should include him, hoping that maybe he's grown up and mellowed out over the years. She's big on forgiveness and keeping family ties intact, but I'm really not convinced. The guy made my childhood a nightmare. Asking him to my wedding feels like inviting chaos to a house of cards. What's making this even tougher is my parents are pushing hard for me to invite him. They told me flat out that if Lucas isn't on the guest list, they won't be coming either. According to them, I'm being petty for holding on to the past. But they never had to live with him, they don't know what it was like. I'm torn. I want our wedding to be perfect, and the thought of Lucas showing up and ruining it makes me sick. But on the flip side, I don't want to blow up the whole family dynamic right before such a big moment in my life. I feel completely stuck. For a little background, my parents split when I was 10. It was a nasty, dragged-out divorce that left some emotional bruises. I ended up living with my mom most of the time. My dad, on the other hand, remarried not long after. He married Lucas's mom when I was 12, and it didn't take long for her and Lucas to move in. I wasn't thrilled, but I tried to roll with it. Lucas, however, made it clear right away that he wanted nothing to do with me. He was used to having all the attention, and I was just some inconvenient new addition to his life. My stepmom kept pushing this idea that Lucas and I should act like real brothers, but that was never in the cards. Lucas didn't want a brother, he wanted someone to pick on. It started with petty stuff, snide remarks, dirty looks. But as we got older, it escalated. He'd shove me around, call me names, and even spread lies about me at school. And it wasn't just verbal abuse. There were actual incidents, like the time he accidentally pushed me down the stairs and broke my arm. My dad would brush it off as typical boy behavior, and my stepmom always acted like I was exaggerating. My mom, who only had part-time custody, tried stepping in, but her influence was limited. One of the worst things Lucas ever did was destroy a model airplane I'd built with my grandfather, who had passed away. It was something really special to me. I came home from school one day and found it smashed in the garage. Lucas just stood there laughing, said it was an accident. Of course, my dad and stepmom believed him, and I was left to clean up the mess, both literally and emotionally. No one took my side. Every time I tried to speak up, I was ignored. My dad didn't want to hear it, and my stepmom defended Lucas without fail. It made me feel like an outsider in my own home. High school was a nightmare. Lucas spread rumors about me being gay, not that there's anything wrong with that, but the way he did it was purely to humiliate me. He even sabotaged my friendships, spreading lies that turned people against me. The guy was ruthless. Leaving for college was one of the happiest days of my life. It felt like I was finally breaking free from prison. I moved far away, barely kept in touch with my family, and focused on starting fresh. College was a turning point. I got into business, studied hard, and landed a good sales job after graduating. It was during my junior year that I met Lila. She was kind, genuine, and supportive, everything I'd never had growing up. We connected right away, and it didn't take long for us to get serious. I eventually opened up to her about everything Lucas had put me through. She was shocked but incredibly understanding. She encouraged me to let go of the past and look forward. After graduation, I moved in with Lila, and we started building a future together. Life felt good, better than it had in years. So when I proposed last year, it felt like everything was finally falling into place. We started planning our dream wedding, and at first, everything was going great. But then we had to deal with the guest list, and that brought up the dreaded question: should we invite Lucas? Lila knows all the stories. She knows what he's done, but she still believes in giving people another shot. She thinks there's a chance Lucas might have changed and could show up acting like a decent human being. I wasn't convinced. Sure, people can grow, but Lucas? Throughout the wedding planning, I kept leaning toward not inviting him. I mean, why should I? This is supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and just thinking about him being there stresses me out. But then the pressure from my dad and stepmom ramped up. They kept saying it would be childish to leave him out. Eventually, they even said that if he wasn't invited, they wouldn't come either. Talk about emotional blackmail. Lila, always the hopeful one, thought I should extend the olive branch. She said maybe this could be the moment that changes things. Maybe Lucas will rise to the occasion. But all I could think about was how he might pull some stunt and ruin the day for everyone. I didn't want to be scanning the room during my wedding, worried about what he might do. At the same time, though, I didn't want to start a war with my family right before we say our vows. After weeks of going back and forth, I gave in. I finally sent Lucas an invitation. I still don't know if I made the right call. Honestly, it's been weighing on me ever since I dropped that invitation in the mailbox. Sure, I believe people are capable of change, but Lucas? I've never really bought into that idea when it comes to him. What if he shows up and ruins everything? So here I am, turning to you all on Reddit. Did I make the right move by including Lucas in the wedding? Or did I basically hand an open invitation to disaster? If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Update 1. First off, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. The amount of advice, support, and just pure kindness I received was incredible. It helped me feel a little less crazy and a lot less alone. I wish I was here with good news, but things didn't exactly go the way I hoped. After countless nights tossing and turning, I decided to take the high road and give Lucas a chance. I figured, this is my wedding, we're starting a new chapter, and maybe, just maybe, he'd show a shred of decency. A lot of you warned me against it, and trust me, I heard you. But between Lila encouraging peace and my parents practically guilting me into it, I thought maybe this was the right thing to do. Maybe Lucas would prove us all wrong. He showed up in Hawaii a few days before the ceremony, acting like we were lifelong buddies. Smiles, jokes, charm, the whole 9 yards. And I'll be honest, it felt fake. Like he was putting on a show for everyone, trying to sell this version of himself that I didn't buy for a second. At the rehearsal dinner, he was schmoozing with everyone, chatting up relatives, cracking jokes, keeping the energy light. But I noticed the digs, too. Little side comments he'd mutter just low enough so no one else caught them. It was like he couldn't help himself, he just had to try and needle me in subtle ways. Then came the moment that really got to me. After dinner, I happened to walk past a group of my groomsmen and heard Lucas talking about me. I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose, but when I heard my name, I froze. He was laughing, straight up bragging about all the crap he used to pull on me when we were kids. Stuff I've spent years trying to heal from, he turned it into some sick comedy routine. There I was, trying to give the guy a clean slate, and he was making a joke out of my childhood trauma. I wanted to confront him right then and there, but I didn't. I didn't want to blow up the night before my wedding. So I swallowed it and told myself that as long as he didn't pull anything during the ceremony, I could power through. And honestly, the wedding itself? It was beautiful. We had the ocean behind us, the sun was setting, and everything looked like something out of a dream. Lila walked down the aisle looking like pure magic, and for a little while, I forgot all about Lucas. But even in that perfect moment, I caught him off to the side, smirking. Not smiling. Smirking. Maybe no one else noticed it, but I did. It was like he was waiting for his moment to strike. And that moment came at the reception. Everything was going smoothly, great food, amazing music, people dancing, having a blast. Then, during the toasts, Lucas got up out of nowhere and grabbed the mic. He wasn't even the best man, he had no reason to be speaking. I should have stopped him. I really should have. But I didn't want to cause a scene. And that's when the nightmare began. He started his speech acting like it was going to be something sweet or funny. But then he veered into roasting me hard. He started rattling off stories from when we were kids. Some were exaggerated, others flat-out lies. He poked fun at my looks, my job, and even joked that Lila was way out of my league. People laughed at first, but it quickly turned uncomfortable. You could feel the vibe in the room shift. The laughter turned nervous, the smiles started fading. And Lucas? He was eating it up. He loved having everyone's attention. Then he dropped the bombshell. He casually mentioned that he'd hooked up with my high school girlfriend. Said it like it was no big deal, like it was just another funny memory. The entire room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Lila's parents looked horrified. My friends were staring at me, mouths open. I felt like the ground had just disappeared beneath me. And that was it. That was the moment everything came crashing down. My dad, Mr. Let's Keep the Peace, finally snapped. He stormed up to Lucas, grabbed him by the arm, and dragged him out of the venue. But it was already too late. The damage was done. The reception never recovered. Guests started finding reasons to leave early. The ones who stayed tried to pretend everything was normal, but you could tell no one was really having fun anymore. Lila and I did our best to salvage what was left of the night, but I could barely keep it together. I felt like I was in a daze, like everything had just been flipped upside down. Later that night, after everyone had left and Lila and I were finally alone, I completely broke down. I was angry. I was humiliated. I was ashamed that I'd let him ruin one of the most important days of my life. I couldn't stop replaying that speech in my head, wondering how I'd been so stupid to think he'd changed. Lila, bless her, was incredible. She held me while I cried, told me none of it mattered, that we were married now and that's what was important. And she's right. But that feeling of betrayal? It won't go away. So once again, I'm turning to Reddit. I don't know what to do from here. I don't know how to move forward with my family, especially with my dad, the same man who pressured me into inviting Lucas in the first place. I feel like the people I trusted led me straight into a trap. What now? How do I process this mess? How do I come back from what should have been the happiest day of my life turning into one of the worst? Any advice would mean the world to me. Because right now, I'm lost. Update 2. Hey again. Just wanted to check in and thank all of you who reached out after my last post. The comments, DMs, and even the shared stories were overwhelming in the best way. After the wedding fiasco, my parents reached out basically begging me to forgive them. My parents eventually admitted they'd been wrong about Lucas. They finally said they should have listened to me from the start. My dad, especially, seemed genuinely sorry. He admitted that he'd spent years enabling Lucas, always brushing off his behavior as boys being boys. But after what happened at the wedding, he told me he finally saw Lucas for who he really is. My stepmom wasn't quite as remorseful. She got defensive, like she always does, but even she couldn't deny that Lucas had crossed a major line. To try and make up for it, they offered to pay for a second reception, something small and intimate with just close family and friends. They said it was the least they could do after everything Lucas ruined. I could see the guilt on their faces, and maybe part of them was sincere. But if I'm being honest, the offer felt more like damage control than a real apology. Another reception wasn't going to erase what Lucas did or how it made me feel. And just when I thought I couldn't feel more humiliated, Lucas proved me wrong. The very next day after the wedding, he texted me. It was a string of mocking messages. He was actually bragging about how he'd made the wedding memorable and said I should thank him for giving people something to talk about. He even threw in a few old insults, calling me a loser, like he used to back in high school. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I just blocked his number and sat there feeling like the floor had been pulled out from under me again. His words stuck in my head, and the shame and embarrassment came rushing back, even worse than before. After a lot of thinking and reading through all the advice I got here, I made a decision. I cut Lucas out of my life completely. I blocked him on everything: phone, email, social media. Every connection is gone. I refuse to let him have even the tiniest bit of space in my life moving forward. He doesn't get to hurt me anymore. That part of my life is over. But making that decision also forced me to take a hard look at my relationship with my parents. Their apologies, while appreciated, felt like they came way too late. They stood by and let Lucas treat me like garbage for years, and only now, after he embarrassed them at my wedding, do they admit they were wrong? Part of me wants to just cut them off too. But another part of me wonders if there's still something left to salvage. For now, I've decided to put some distance between us. I told them I need time to think, time to heal, and that I don't want to talk or see them for a while. My dad seemed hurt, but he said he understood. I'm not sure how long this break will last, but I know I need it. Lila's been nothing but supportive. She completely backs my decision to go no contact with Lucas and to step back from my parents for now. This hasn't been easy on her either. Watching someone you love go through all this hurt during what should have been the happiest time of your life, it's a lot. But we've had some really good, honest conversations about boundaries and how we want to protect our peace moving forward. Lila even brought up the idea of us relocating once things settle down. Starting fresh in a new state, away from all this drama, sounds more appealing than I ever thought it would. We're not rushing into anything, but just knowing it's an option helps. So I'm back here again, asking for advice. I've cut Lucas out for good, that part I'm confident about. But when it comes to my parents, I'm still torn. They've apologized, but is it enough? Is it even worth trying to rebuild something with them, or would I just be setting myself up for more disappointment? Update 3. Hey everyone. Just wanted to share another update because, things escalated. After taking some time to breathe and sort through my feelings, I realized I wasn't okay just letting Lucas get away with everything. I know revenge isn't always the best path, and maybe I'll get heat for this, but I needed to stand up for myself. I couldn't let him walk all over me one more time without any consequences. Here's what happened. A friend of mine from college, who now works at the same company as Lucas, mentioned something in passing while we were talking about the wedding. Apparently, Lucas had been bragging around the office about scoring a free vacation to Hawaii on the company's credit card. He had told them it was a business trip. My friend was shocked once they realized the truth, but they didn't want to get involved. That's when it hit me, I could report him. Not out of spite, but because what he did was straight up fraud. So I did it. Anonymously, of course. I put together everything I knew: flight dates, where he stayed, and how it lined up exactly with my wedding. I even included a few of the more ridiculous things he said about his business trip to make it crystal clear this wasn't some misunderstanding. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. A few days later, word started spreading through the family. Lucas had been pulled into a meeting with HR and was grilled about the charges. He tried to wiggle his way out of it, but there was too much evidence. They fired him on the spot. And from what I've heard, they're even considering pressing charges for fraud. His golden life? Gone. Just like that. And you know what? I don't feel bad. Not one bit. He had this coming. He spent his entire life skating by and making others miserable in the process. This time, he finally faced some real consequences. Naturally, my parents reached out again, not to check in on me, but because they were furious. I guess someone told them I was behind the report. Maybe Lucas figured it out. I'm not sure. They called, demanding to know how I could be so vindictive. This time, I didn't hold back. I told them Lucas brought it all on himself. I reminded them of how hard they pushed me to include him, how they insisted it was the right thing to do. And now they were dealing with the consequences. I told my parents flat out Lucas was dead to me. If they couldn't respect my decision to cut him out completely, then they could consider themselves cut off too. No more guilt, no more trying to play peacemaker. My dad didn't take it well. He argued that I was overreacting, saying that family is family, no matter what. But I wasn't budging this time. I stood my ground and gave them a very clear ultimatum: either they respected my boundaries and stopped defending Lucas, or they could be part of the past right along with him. My stepmom started crying, saying I was the one tearing the family apart. But that wasn't true, and I told her that. I reminded them both that I spent most of my life getting bullied and belittled by Lucas while they stood by and let it happen. I wasn't going to let them guilt-trip me into pretending it never happened just because now it was inconvenient for them. They kept trying to talk me down, urging me to move on and let it go. But I stayed firm. I told them that forgiving Lucas wasn't some magic fix. It was never about one event, it was about a lifetime of being mistreated and ignored. So here I am again, Reddit, asking for your thoughts. Do you think I went too far by reporting Lucas to his employer for using the company card? Was the ultimatum I gave my parents too extreme? I'm stuck between feeling justified and feeling unsure. If anyone out there has been in a similar spot or just has advice, I'd really appreciate it. Update 4, Final. Hey everyone. I'm back with what I hope will be the last update on this chapter of my life. The last few weeks have been difficult, but I'm finally starting to feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I've made some decisions, big ones, about my family and how I plan to move forward. Thank you to every single one of you who followed this story and shared your advice. Having a place to vent and receive real feedback made a huge difference for me. After I gave my parents the ultimatum, there was radio silence for a few days. I didn't reach out either. I figured they needed time to process what I said, and honestly, I needed space too. I was bracing myself for the possibility that they'd choose Lucas and cut me off instead. It was an anxious, emotionally draining few days. Eventually, my dad called. He sounded different, calmer, more serious than I'd heard him in a long time. He told me that after a lot of late-night talks, he and my stepmom had decided to respect my wishes. They agreed to cut contact with Lucas, at least for the foreseeable future. My dad admitted that while he might not be able to completely sever ties with Lucas forever, after all, he is still his son. He promised not to force any kind of interaction between us. He said he finally realized Lucas had crossed way too many lines and that it was time to stop defending his behavior. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was something. And I appreciated that. It meant they were at least trying to meet me halfway. My dad apologized again, this time with more sincerity, for all the times he brushed off Lucas's cruelty and left me to deal with it alone. I'm not quite ready to forgive all of it just yet, but it was the first real sign that maybe things could change. So with them agreeing to respect my boundaries, I decided to try and rebuild some kind of relationship with my parents. I'm taking it slow. I'm keeping them at arm's length for now, because I need to protect both myself and Lila from more heartache. We're starting our marriage, and we deserve peace. Speaking of Lila, she's been my rock through all of this. Truly. We've had a lot of long talks about where we go from here, and we decided it's time for a fresh start. We're moving out of state. We found a great opportunity in a new city, far away from all this family tension, and we're both excited to build our life from the ground up. As for Lucas? I haven't heard a single word from him since he got fired. I have no idea what he's doing now, and I honestly don't care. He's out of my life. Permanently. If my parents want to keep in touch with him in some limited way, that's their call, but I want no part of it. I've made that clear, and to their credit, they've agreed not to bring him around or bring him up. So this is where things stand. Lila and I are moving forward together. We've got a new city, a new beginning, and for the first time in a long time, I actually feel hopeful. I'm cautiously reopening the door to my parents, but only on my terms. They've shown a willingness to change, but they'll have to prove they mean it over time. And to all of you who read, commented, messaged, or just listened, thank you. Seriously. You helped me stand firm when I wanted to fold. You helped me recognize that boundaries are not just okay, they're necessary. Here's to letting go of the past and building a future that isn't weighed down by it. Thanks again, Reddit. Wishing you all peace, strength, and better days ahead.